Hey guys, what is up? Today we're going to be diving into an Izzet deck that you start the game out with. It is the basic Izzet deck that you'll unlock once the last mastery rank of your account when you first begin your account and play Magic the Gathering for the first time. We're going to break down the deck, kind of go into what it's all about, get some gameplay and kind of see, how the deck plays overall, kind of give you some feedback of what I think about the deck, and we'll play a couple matches and see how we do. Guys, if you like the video, hit that like button. If you want to sub and let you know when these videos go live, hit that sub button. But let's move on to the video. Scar TV. So today we're looking at the Izzet League deck. That is one of the decks you get when you first start playing Magic the Gathering, when you hit rank 25 account mastery. Pretty much it's a straightforward deck. It's a red and blue deck. It combines cards that pretty much react to instant spells, as well as also cards that will come and get you, that will come and fetch you instant spells, and has a couple little interesting secrets in the deck to get you kind of playing copies of spells to pump up other creatures and kind of, eliminate your opponents by either dealing direct damage to their face and or direct damage to their creatures. To start off, we got a 1-cost shock. Pretty good spell, 2 damage to any target, whether it's to their face or to one of their creatures. Aggro Bolas to search to the top three cards of your library to search your deck for an instant or sorcery card. Radical Idea, 2-cost instant speed. Jumpstart's an ability that you may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to play its other cost, then exile this card. 2-cost draw a card spell. Pretty good because you get double uses out of it. And there's a way to actually make a lot of these instant spells cheaper, but we'll get into that in a little bit. You got J is Greeting, 3 damage to target creature and a scry. So you look at the top card, decide whether you want to keep it up there. If not, put it on the bottom and move on. 2 damage, a Lava Coil. 2 costs, 4 damage Lava Coil. If it kill a creature, it exile instead. Kind of goes around some cards that when they get put into the graveyard, they get kind of like either added back to their deck, and or also pretty good for the escape removal, so cards can't be escaped back out if they get killed. Fireman's Research. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a counter on Fireman's Research. Remove 2 counters. You can draw a card. Remove 5 counters and deal 5 damage to any target. Pretty strong card, including with all the instant and sorcery spells this deck does play. You got the Goblin Electromancer, 2 cost. Instance and sorcery spells cost you 1 last to cast. This is something that will make things like Lava Coil cost 1, Jay's Greeting cost 1. It makes these cards even stronger to then allow you to remove more of your creatures on your opponent's side and or do more damage to their face. League Guildmage, tap 2 cost, red blue, tap 4, draw a card, or red and an X, copy instant or sorcery spell you control with convert mana cost of X, choose new targets. So if you want to do more damage to the face, you can take like a J is Greeting, tap 3 and a red, or tap 2 and a red. I don't actually know if the Electromancer's minus 1 less will actually play effect, so you may actually want to have to tap in a 1 and a red, and you may be able to copy that and then deal even more damage. Then you got Wings Words. This spell costs you 1 less if you control a creature flying. Draw 2 cards. So on top of the Electromancer, you do get the benefit of playing flying creatures, and it will make this card cost even less. So 2 costs to draw 2 cards with no other side effect is actually pretty good. I mean, sorcery speed, but other than that, it's a really strong card. You got Spell Gorger Weird. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this. This deck does play a lot of spells. This is only a 1 of in this base deck, but it overall is a pretty strong card combined with all these spells. Redragonauts, 3 cost flyer. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. You can use it reactively when you may want to burn a creature on your opponent's turn, and or when you go to attack, you may want to get super aggressive and deal damage to the face, and or replenish your hand by drawing more cards. You got Chemist's Insight, another 4 mana card. Draw 2 cards with the Jumpstart ability, allowing you to maybe net 4 cards from your deck. And it's instant speed, so you can cast it either on your turn or your opponent's turn. Very strong card. Murmur Mystic, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 bird illusion token with flying onto the battlefield. Pretty synergistic as well with the instants and sorceries do play, especially when you copy them and make more copies. That means even more bird tokens on your side of the field to fly over hopefully your opponent's creatures and attack them in the face. You got Crackling Drake, flyer 0/4. Whenever its power is total, you got Crackling Drake, flying 0/4. Crackling Drake's power is equal to the number of instant or sorcery spells you own in your exile and in your graveyard. And whenever it enters battlefield, you draw a card, which is, depending on when you play this thing could come in as a 4/4 for 4, if not even higher. You got Ra's Outburst. Ra's Outburst deals damage to any target. Look at top 2 cards of your library, put one of them in your hand, the other into your graveyard. If you get 2 instants or sorcery spells, you take one and then maybe put one into your graveyard, making this card even stronger. Commence the endgame. For 6 cost, draw 2 cards, amass X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. If you have a big hand, cast this. You get a big zombie token that is pretty decent, and this spell can't be countered. So if you play against a blue deck as well, or another deck that plays counters, this is a pretty strong card to get more hand advantage. Izzet, 6 cost, 5/5 dragon. This spell can't be countered. Flying, whenever you draw a card, it deals 1 damage to any target. And then whenever a player casts a sorcery, spell, or instant, you can also draw a card, which then means if your opponent tries to do something in response, you draw a card, it deals also damage to your opponent. So it's like if they play a spell at instant or sorcery speed, they are going to take a damage either to the face or to one of their creatures, and also when you draw your card. 1,000 Year Storm. This is also another interesting card. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery speed, copy it for each other instant or sorcery spell you cast before this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. So if you go like turn like 7 after you play this and decide to play a bunch of your like a shock, then you play like a radical idea or a radical idea into a shock. After the radical idea, the shock would then be casted twice. You choose new targets for this copy, and then if you were to then play another one, then there'd be 3 shocks on top of that, and so on and so forth until these cards stacked, and either you run out of mana and then you can't cast it no more. But pretty much this is a spell that pretty much every time you cast a spell, you get a copy for this each spell casted prior to it. It's kind of similar to an older mechanic called Storm, which was built into some cards back in the day. This is just a more modernized enchantment version of that card. You got Electro Dominance, which is a X to red. Electro Dominance deals X damage to any target. You may cast this card with converted cost X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. With 1,000 Year Storm, this actually isn't that bad because you could cast Electro Dominance for like 4, and then you could then play a spell for 4, and so on and so forth. Afterwards, expansion, cast copy target instant or sorcery spell. You convert across 4 or less. You may choose new targets for the copy. An explosion deals X damage to any target. Target player draws X cards. So you could also copy this as well. This deck has 10 islands, 10 mountains, 4 Izzet guild gates, and 1 steam vents. Overall, the deck is pretty solid for a starter deck. I mean, there is areas to improve. You could either add in more steam vents, take out guild gates, so you have more lands that don't come into play tapped to kind of help fix your mana. You can even add the scry lands that are also blue and red that help whenever you play them. You also scry the top card of your library to kind of like help fix your deck if you're looking for something in particular. You want to add in extra Electro Dominance expansions. Maybe 1 more 1,000 Year Storm. It's an okay card, very expensive, but you don't need too many. Same thing with Izzet, maybe 1 more just so you have a chance of drawing him, so you have a little bit stronger of an end game. I would definitely add in more Crackling Drakes because I feel like it's a strong card with the amount of spells this deck plays. Maybe add 2 more of these, 1 more Wee Dragonauts because I also feel like this is a strong card. Spell Gorgers is a pretty solid card just because it becomes a bigger creature every time you play a spell. Winged Words, maybe you get 2 more of these if you decide to go more of a fly-in route. If you decide to go more of a mix route, maybe you only add 1 more. Maybe 1 more copy of this, maybe 1 more copy of that. This is okay. You can maybe get rid of it, or if you think you're going to play a lot, you could keep it. It does play pretty decent with the 1,000 Year Storm, but it is a very situational thing. I think the Radical Ideas at 2 is okay. Ogre Bolas is pretty strong. You may want to get a couple more copies of this so you can dig for more instants or sorcery spells. But overall, this deck is pretty solid. I did mess around with it for a little bit before I made this video, just kind of get a feel for it. But we're gonna hop into a game. We're gonna kind of see what goes on. Depending on how quickly or short the game is, maybe we'll play a few. But let's move on to that. So, I mean, overall, this isn't that bad of a deck. This is probably like one of the first multi decks that you may want to play. It has a little bit more of a control feel, I personally would say, but overall, this deck is pretty interesting. It's not going to be a lot of your meta decks, but in like typical heads up, against whoever, you may have a good chance of beating your opponent. This hand is okay. The lands are a little wonky. We're a little top heavy in spells, but we have a card that we can dig for instant spells. I am gonna go and keep this hand because, I mean, granted we're going first, but we can put a card in tapped. I am gonna play the Izzet Guildgate just because I don't have a turn 1 play. Might as well get it out of the way. Our opponent's playing white, which is interesting here. I may play another one of these. Worst case scenario, I can bring this in and pay 2 life. The shock lands, as people like to call them, are actually very, very strong. Just because you can decide to pay to bring them into play untapped. If not, you can just bring them into play tap, and they create both mana sources, as well as the fact that they also do count as an island and mountain. So they're they work with those cards that, you know, this land comes into play tapped if you don't control this or that. Our opponent played a Hushbringer, which is a card that pretty much eliminates any of our coming into play abilities from triggering, which is kind of unfortunate. It looks like they're playing some sort of Hushbringer deck. There's a possibility that they may play something that whenever something happens, this X happens. We'll play a We Dragonauts just to kind of create a blocker in the air. I don't actually know if something's gonna happen with this, but it looks like they're playing some sort of life gain, and it looks like they're pumping up. This may not be good for us. I'm not gonna block. I am going to. This is tough. I think I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna dig for a card. Have a ground blocker. Crap, that doesn't work. Forgot that's a whenever it comes into play. We'll say oops. But we will. Whenever this creature. So this is pretty much they're just life gain in deck. We'll chop that out. Get rid of that. We're not gonna attack. This may be doomed for us just because they could gain life. And the Hushbringer does kind of hurt us from playing things. Of course they have another one. This deck is not a basic deck that is a starter deck, so it does put us at a disadvantage. So pretty much these Ajani's are just gonna keep on getting bigger and bigger, which is unfortunate for us. I don't think we could pull this one out, but I mean, we might as well try. Just I think they're too big and we don't have enough spells to properly play them. That is unfortunate. We only have enough to do 1 damage with that. I guess we play this in the air. The Hushbringer does kind of affect our deck. We possibly could have dug for something if we would have gotten it. But they're pretty much attacking it with everything, triggering all these. This is pretty much a loss because, like I said, we don't have a spell that's going to be able to take them out. Just got put into a deck that drew very well. It is a very strong deck, especially when it's not playing against a deck that is super duper meta. But overall, I mean, like, the deck plays well. If we play against a deck that's a little bit more even, I would say the deck we were playing against wasn't top tier, but it is a solid deck that also you could play, I guess, as you know, get more cards. This hand is actually pretty good. We get a Goblin Ultramancer. We have a turn 1 shock, possibly, and then we have some other cards to play a little bit later. I am going to keep. Let's bring this land into tapped just because we don't have anything else. Okay, they also brought a land into tap, which is good for us. Which I think then I will play this and I'll pass. It's blue-black deck. It's probably like a Dimir deck where they're going to surveil, is my best guess. Okay, they're all about drawing so far. It could be like a blue-black control like deck with a little bit of mill also. Which wouldn't be too terrible for us, because I feel like we would be able to work around it. The goal here is just to get some of our triggers out. and go from there. That is perfectly fine. They can't attack, and end of turn we will zap their creature. I mean, the one thing I would say here is that we kind of want to control the board state. We will bring that into play untapped and play this. And we'll draw a card, which is actually very strong. And this is, see, as you can see here, because we have Goblin Necromancer, this spell now costs 1 card to draw a spell at instant speed, which is super duper strong in more of a even match format. That's fine with me. We have another one, which our opponent does not know. And they got a card I guess they were looking for. We will play the Electromancer. We did not draw a land, but we will draw to jumpstart. And there's our land. I think we will jumpstart again, because this is actually pumping up this guy, which is strong. And then we will swing in for 3. And now we have some answers in case our opponent plays something a little bit bigger, because we are getting a little bit later into the game. And we do have, like, worst case scenario, we can draw a card and discard a card at the end of turn. That is fine. They're just going to bounce our card back. It's not the biggest of deals to me. Alright, they're playing a deck about bouncing stuff back to our hand. To slow us down, I guess. I guess we'll just literally replay all of it. Minus that 1 card, it's fine. We did not draw a land. I am going to discard this card, which is fine because it will actually power up. It will actually power up our Drake, so it wasn't the worst case scenario. I mean, granted, it is going to prevent us from killing something a lot bigger. That is perfectly fine. And it can only block creatures with flying. Pass to attackers. It can't attack. We will do 2 damage to it. Killing it. And then we'll pass it to my turn. We will play this. Giving our opponents an idea of a possible bigger attack. It's good to play multiple cards that would make copies of cards. They're going to take something of ours. That's still fine. We will kill this because I don't need them playing anything to get it back. We will keep that. We will play this. And we will say go and attack in the face. And I think our opponent was playing a deck where they flicker things in and out and they haven't drawn any of that. But I'm not 100% sure. That is perfectly fine. They play a land. They may have a lot of lands. They may have drawn dead, which is unfortunate for them. We'll play this. We'll actually draw a card by discarding one of these. It's still fine. That is actually good. We'll go to attacks. We'll attack for 6 in the air. Play We Dragonaut. And we'll let our opponent go. So overall, the deck is trying to be aggressive at your opponent. And they unfortunately don't have, looks like they have a play, and it is our go. So I think they missed some of their cards, but overall, that's kind of how the deck works. It's about kind of rushing your opponent in a way, but also playing kind of like conservative. I would say this deck is more of a mid-game deck, where it's not very good early game. It's a little slow compared to like a mono red, but it plays well in the mid game. But against a control deck that would want to dig the game into a late game, it overall is more of a... It's more of like a middle of the game where it wants to eliminate your opponent before it gets too deep in the game and maybe your opponent has drawn into something much, much bigger. I mean, we got lucky, I think, because we had answers for their cards, so that was good. And they didn't seem to really play too much. And we get to go first again. This hand is pretty solid. We have some early stuff. I mean, granted, we don't have like a turn 2 or turn 1, but we have some stuff that we can work with. I'm just going to bring in Steam Vents into play and tapped, just because I don't have a turn 1. Looks like they're playing some sort of green deck. It looks like maybe some sort of rampy kind of deck, but we will do 2 damage to that, 3 damage to this, kill it. Yeah, it's fine. I could have actually let them play stuff out and then killed it, but it's fine. I am going to play one of these. I have faith either we're going to top deck something, or worst case scenario, I'll be able to pump this higher. All right. They got a 1-1. It looks like they're on a slower play. We'll kill this. Make sure that's gone as well. I'm not 100% sure. It looks like some sort of green kind of stompy deck, because pellet collectors can get pretty big depending on how many things you have. That's fine. We have an answer for it. And it's a good thing we drew a land, because we can play our answer. We will play this one. I mean, I could have taken the other card, but I think this maybe had the better effect sooner than later, just because it will allow us to get a creature as well as 2 cards, and it can't be countered. It's fine, I think still. They may think like, oh yes, I'm going to attack for 4 every turn, but I think next turn we can do something to that to take it down a size. The problem is if we don't draw a land here, then I can't shock. Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think we get rid of the Mystic. We'll keep the shock open. Now the question is, he's most likely gonna block here because he probably does have another response, which is fine. I kind of want him to. Or he's gonna let me attack him for 6 to the face. Interesting. Maybe he's gonna save the shock for next turn. I was very surprised. Our Drake is a 4/4, so after this we could leave our... Interesting. They are gonna try to bump him up and get more counters on him, which is okay, I guess. But this is where we kind of do this. Get out of the land. And I think we attack in, because it either blocks and he's at 1 and he's going to be open to shock damage, or we don't attack and he could get his creature up to a 6/6 and may have a pump. But if he may have a pump spell here too, we're not going to attack. We're going to let him get the ++. That may have been a dumb move on our part. That is perfectly fine. He's not going to attack here because we can kill it unless he has something to pump that up 1 higher, or we can double block and we'll kill it regardless. It's still fine. We'll double block. And that's 10. Giant Growth is only 1 cost. Regardless, it's dead, because it's Death Touch. And pretty much what we'll do here is we will play the Electromancer, and I think we still have enough open for this. And then we have a 4/4. And we have 2 shocks, which is strong here if he doesn't play anything big. Wow, that is a lot of land. We'll get rid of a land. That is what we need here. So we have 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm actually kind of curious. You can gain 2 life to put him up to 5. I wonder if he thinks we have something. We'll attack in and see what he does. My assumption he's gonna block or not. Okay, that's perfectly fine. We are gonna let him probably get through here, depending on what he plays. But I think he is dead in the water next turn. Because we pretty much cancel out his life gain effect with the hope. Well, I am gonna block just because in case he has a pump spell. I could double burn, but I don't think we need to. But I think he's gonna be playing something here, because he wouldn't have just done that. That's still fine. In response before end of turn, though, that's, I guess, that's fine. He's at 6 open. This is still fine. He's at 9. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8 total mana. That's 6 damage to him. And then auto pay. And then we'll play shock to him as well. And that is the game. And that is pretty much how this deck works out. The goal here is to kind of do damage to your opponent's face, play all these instants and sorcery spells. We played against another decent like deck. I wouldn't say it's another top tier deck, but it is a decent also starter deck that you can build on your own, full of a lot of green big creatures. We still managed to get around all of it. But overall, that's how this deck plays. It is a pretty good, more controlling / aggro mid-range deck. I would say there's a little bit more control and a little less aggro. It's not as aggressive as a red deck would be. It's using more of the benefits of the burn spells red has to kind of keep your opponent's creatures in control, as well as it uses also the effects of blue to draw cards to get hand advantage against your opponent. So overall, it's a pretty balanced deck. Guys, if you liked this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos where we break down the starter decks that you start Magic the Gathering Arena with, let me know down in the comments below. If you want to know when these videos go live, hit that subscribe button. But until then, I'll see you in the next video.